It was almost $50 million for 1 teraflops, 1 trillion operations per second. 50 million, 1 teraflops. By 2016, you could buy 8 teraflops, which is more or less what you need for level 4, for $600. That's an improvement of nearly a million times, right? A million times improvement. And if you have an Apple 10, you already have 5 trillion operations per second for free. Done, right? For free. You can get basically the equivalent of $250 million of supercomputing, which is why companies like NVIDIA and Tesla and so on are developing multi-hundred trillion operations per second computing, right? Because that's what you need. But if there's anything that I want you to walk away with is this: artificial intelligence, learning is improving not just exponentially, but double exponentially. Both the hardware and the software are improving exponentially. So the combination is double exponential. And this is an example what Google Mind, DeepMind did with Go. I mean, in 3 years, that's all it took them to go from playing 80s games to beating the European champion at Go. You could not do that before. 3 years. Within 5 months, they beat the world champion, which is an order of magnitude smarter, right, than the European champion within months. And then they took that, they shelved it, they restarted, they rebooted with just the rules of the game. No human knowledge, just the rules of the game. Within 3 days, they beat the version that beat the world champion by 100 games to zero. AI is improving at double exponential rates. Anybody who tells you we're going to wait 10 years for level 4 autonomy, I don't know if they get this double exponential. And when I say autonomous technology, I mean it for everything that moves on wheels. Um, Anything that moves on wheels is going to be autonomous. So, what is the disruption? The disruption is the three technologies, the two technologies plus the business model innovation, that convergence. So let's assume it's going to happen in 2021, that we're going to have level 4 autonomous technology that is ready and is approved.
I'm sorry, Gary, but this video is not working out. Your background noise is really disrupting this. I can't hear.
Service, and it's autonomous electric and on-demand transportation.
What's going on?
Owned by fleets, not individuals.
Sean?
Owned by fleets. The day that autonomous technology is approved, so imagine Uber, autonomous and electric. The day that's approved, the cost per mile of TAS is going to be 10 times cheaper than the cost of owning a car. That day. So essentially, that day, the decision that someone is going to have to make is, do I want to spend $50,000 to buy a car over the next 5 years, or do I want the $100 subscription to Uber or Lyft? No brainer. Every time there's been a 10x cost, there's been a disruption, and a quick one at that. Every time. And
Gary, now we cannot hear the video again.
and exactly, what I predicted. They're saying 18 cents per mile. My prediction was 10 to 20 cents. So it's within the right range for transport as a service. So if this happens 2021, then by 2030, 95% of miles in America are going to be autonomous, electric, and on demand. 95% for purely economic reasons, not because of governments, for purely economic reasons, because it's going to be 10 times cheaper than a gasoline car or even an EV that's individually owned. Now, the implications of all of this are stunning, and I'm going to walk you through some of them. 2021. Now, if level 4 happens 2023, it's a shorter time frame, right? 2021 would be a 10-year disruption. It could be shorter if level 4 is approved later. Implications. Peak car would happen around the time, basically the year before level 4 is approved, right? Because nobody's going to buy a car except for fleets. So it's going to crash new car sales. Um, the US vehicle fleet is going to shrink by about 80% because we're going to have cars running around 100,000 miles per year, not being parked. I mean, we park our cars 96% of the time. I mean, that's a useless use of space. So the fleet's going to shrink by 80%. The other implications, financial, every American family, by not owning a car and instead getting a subscription, is going to save about $6,000 per year. 6,000 in our pockets per year. I already have it, by the way, I don't own a car. And what that means for the economy is $1 trillion increase in disposable income. $1 trillion. Now, that would be the biggest boost in the economy ever in history. And on top of that, because we're not going to drive and we're going to do other stuff while not driving, that's an additional $1 trillion in economic gains. $2 trillion boost to the economy. Social, 10 cents per mile means you can go anywhere within 10 miles for $1. Essentially, we're going to see Starbucks on wheels offering free. I mean, this is free transportation. That means mobility for all, everyone, for the poor, for the young, for the old, for the retired. We don't need to own cars. We have access to pretty much everything. A lot of jobs exist that could be filled by people who are at least an hour to 90 minutes away. And this would give them access to those jobs, right? Because a fleet of 80% fewer cars, no traffic, right? Traffic gone, at least the way that we know it. 90% decrease in greenhouse emissions. 90%. It's not going to cost us money. We're actually getting money back. Thank you very much to go 90% lower greenhouse gas emission. And this does not take into account cleaning the actual power generation side. 90% less greenhouse gases. Traffic accidents, we're going to save at least 1 million lives per year. I mean, cars are death machines, right? We kill 1.2, 1.3 million people every year, and we send 4 or 5 million, 40, 50 million people to the hospital every year. That is going to go, right, with self-driving cars. Implications for the oil industry, essentially, oil is going to peak. Again, assume 2021, when level 4 is approved, 2020 will be the peak at 100 million barrels per day, and it's going to go down to about 70 by 2030. So it's going to be a 30% drop within 10 years. But price, remember market trauma, as we have heard, as we know from 2014-15, all you need in oil markets is a 2 million barrel oversupply for prices to crash from 100 to 20. And we've seen this. So we estimate that oil, as soon as 2021 or 2, will crash to about $25. $25. Boom. And it's not coming back. It's not coming back. What does that mean? If you cannot compete at 2025, you're gone. Any asset that can't compete at 20 or 25, gone, right? Stranded. And that means deep water, shale, and oil sands, gone, right? And that includes not just lifting, but also all the associated infrastructure with those types of oil. I mean, a CEO of a major oil company told me, I'm getting ready for oil at 15, having studied this. I mean, I'm saying 25, but once you get this, some folks are getting ready for that. Implications for construction and real estate. So we park our cars 96% of the time. Did I say that? Yeah. When we have fleets that are going around driving 100,000 miles per year, not needing to park, we're going to have 80 to 90% of the parking infrastructure is going to free up. That means a third of the landmass of American cities is going to free up that is used today for parking. A third of the landmass. Houston, much more than that. Uh, Fort Worth, 40%. LA, 40, 50%, right? Now, I did the numbers for Los Angeles, and with the parking that's freed up, you could build 3 cities the size of San Francisco in LA. 3 cities the size, parking and everything, Golden Gate Park and everything, right? In LA. So our cities, our society, I mean, it's the time now to start thinking, what do we do with that third of landmass that's going to open up in our cities within 10 years, right? Because this is the time to choose. Do we want green space? Check. Do we want more business? Check. Do we want affordable housing? Check, right? A third, we have not had that opportunity in 100 years to rebuild our cities. And this means a massive multi-trillion-dollar construction boom because of all this freed up space. And when we build new, I mean, anyone who knows, who's seen what's going on in California or what's happened in the cold winters or in the South when we get hurricanes and whatnot, knows that we need a new grid. Now, the interesting thing is that when you combine rooftop solar plus batteries plus smart infrastructure, you can get both lower costs and more resilience, both. We don't have to choose anymore. So David's going to talk about solar, but essentially we're at the point where solar on the rooftop is already cheaper, not just than grid, it's cheaper than the cost of transmission, meaning that even if you generate at zero, a rooftop solar plus batteries is in everybody's selfish best economic interest, right? And also it gives us more resilience. And on top of that, a 200-mile EV has enough juice for 2 days of electricity of the average American home, right? And now we can't, I mean, we could power our homes with our cars. We just can't do it now because of regulation. So let me take you back to the future, from horses to cars, and now we're going from cars to transport as a service. We are here in 2019, and we're essentially driving typewriters on wheels. And if you don't know what a typewriter is, I've made my point, right? That's what we're driving right now. They're going to be disrupted, wipe out, just like typewriters were. Within 10 years, we're going to be transformed in terms of transport, energy, and our cities are going to be radically transformed, and it's going to happen within 10 years. And I'll leave you with one thought. This is not an energy transition. This is a technology disruption. It's not going to happen because of governments. It's going to happen despite governments. It's not going to cost money. We're going to get money back. Thank you so much.
Well, hello. I have to apologize for getting the audio comes from the speaker playing the YouTube broadcast to the microphone.
Welcome to Earth Day 2020, and thank you for having me here. Today, I want to take you into the future of
I think he's on
energy and transportation. But before I do that, I want to take you to the
I think it went on to another video of his. So I'll have to find another way to do this, or remember not to try to eat while this is going on. I apologize for that. I think I'd learn. I guess I'm a slow learner.
You just had a long message from someone who's trying to get on your website or something. I don't know.
It can't.
Forget it. Yeah.
So I'm going to show a few slides, kind of bringing you up to date on these topics. So this slide, I think I skipped through this somehow. This is for Cupertino.
So,
But
Gary,
it-
you're not yet sharing.
I'm sorry, say that again.
You need to do the share screen.
Oh, thank you. I have to wait for. Okay. That's the last slide. What do you see now?
We see your presentation.
Okay, the title.
Yep, title slide. But if
Okay,
you could
let's
move to
let's just leave
slideshow.
it at that. I can get. I don't want to fool around anymore getting rid of it, but I think it's big enough. So I was about to point out uh, what's going on in Cupertino. Okay, all the cities in California are obligated to develop what they call a climate action plan, which is how we're going to achieve carbon emission reductions. So Cupertino is tentatively looking at a 50% reduction by 2030 of the 2010 level. And here you see reductions that have occurred from largely electricity, because we now get our electricity from a renewable sources through Silicon Valley Clean Energy. Also see some slices here from solid waste. But the big challenges are natural gas and transportation. So there's the book again. So when we talk about transportation, we'll talk about primarily EVs. You may have seen in the paper that Consumer Reports, which is not known for bold projections, but now they have estimated that owning an electric vehicle is less costly than owning and operating an internal combustion engine vehicle. They're looking for the costs to come down. A large part of the cost of an electric vehicle, of course, are the batteries, and that's coming down. So soon, this car, which I don't necessarily recommend, it's really small, Chinese company called Candy is going to be selling this little car. Its selling price is $20,499. There'll be these discounts plus a $3,000 promotion for the first 1,000 vehicles. So you can buy a car, a brand new car, for $8,000. Now, this is not a super duper car. It goes on a charge, I think it was 67 miles. But there'll be another model of this that goes about 90 miles. But we're getting there. We're getting in the low end as well as, of course, the high end, which is started with Tesla.
Gary, will this be available in the US market?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said it quickly, but yeah, they're supposed to be importing them shortly. Yeah, and so by the end of the year or early next, we should be seeing these. Then you can drive to get your vaccine and what. This gives you the flavor of what's happening in the electric market. I think probably in executive rooms and automobile manufacturing, companies throughout the world are going, holy cow, what has this man from South Africa done to us? So they're all rushing to get electric vehicles out there. But nevertheless, Tesla looks to be on the forefront in a variety of ways. Just to show the variety of things that are coming out, GM is going to develop or come out and produce this Hummer, which was never my favorite car, an electric version. Volvo is electrifying all their trucks, their total truck lineup. Now, when you electrify something like trucks or even buses that go on routes, you have a lot of advantages in controlling the situation, in that you know how many miles you're going to be going, you know where you could stop and charge or swap batteries. I don't know particularly what's happened. There's one company that it would look towards using hydrogen to motivate the motive power for a electric vehicle. It was Tesla whose first name. Anyway. And so our governor says by 2035, we're going to only sell zero emission vehicles. And I think he has the authority of what could be sold in here. The problem still is we have to get the infrastructure to support that. Okay, we're going to need chargers. We're going to need to deliver more electricity to people's homes for charging there and charging in shopping centers or whatever. So the hurdles in this for transportation electrification are really the existing infrastructure. Homes can easily adopt in most cases to electric vehicle and put a 240 plug if necessary in their house. I have a Volt that's with a V, so it's basically a hybrid, plug-in hybrid. So it has a battery that'll take the car about 50 miles, and then it'll switch to gas. And that, so I can nominally charge it for most days of driving around town with just regular 120. But if you have longer commutes involved, you're going to have people that probably have 240. For a full charge, for me to charge it 50 miles, it's pretty much an overnight thing, 12 or 13 hours. But if I have a 240 plug in my garage, I can handle it. So the challenges for homes is pretty much taken care of just by the economics in terms of cost. The existing apartment buildings are, because now you got to back in and put a lot of outlets in the parking garages and whatever for those apartment buildings. And of course, we're looking to having EV charging available more broadly in more parking lots. Other options, of course, are public transit, high-speed rail, and aircraft. Aircraft, they're actually making quite interesting progress on electric aircraft.